Howdy, everybody. Good morning. Happy Sunday. Let's see what we got here in the chat. Boop. How's everybody doing today? Archie, I see you out there. Belgian Pulse, Wrapped, BTC, BitConnect. Wassa. Yeah, I hear that. Hexican Lost in Asia. Good to see you, my friend. Long time no see. Roabsar. All right. Don't know if I'm getting that pronunciation right, but hey. Let's go ahead and take a look at the T-Share rates. Yes, they are up and to the right only. It's how the program. It's how it's programmed on the contract. Doing our 30-day look ahead, nothing really new going on here, right? We're not going to see a lot of big changes with T-Share rate. I'm probably going to have to shift a little bit to some other stuff. And but not a whole lot of big changes happening. I know it seems anticlimactic with the OA having staked, and we thought, hey, we're going to see a whole bunch of big changes, but that's not how it works, right? And that's because the rewards are low. So we're still looking at 41,600 on the Ethereum side, 41,300 on the Pulse Chain side. Going out 60 days, should be above that 41,000, approaching 42 on Ethereum, and 41,410 on the Pulse Chain. Remember, these numbers will change. They always change. They get adjusted based on actual performance. We go out 90 days, we're looking at 42 on ETH and 41.7 on Pulse. 160 days, you start seeing some larger changes, getting all the way up to 42 on both chains. And right now, end of year, we're still looking at about 45K by the end of the year. Looking into the future, end of 26, 49,000, almost 50,000, and then 54,000 as we get into the end of 27. And so T-Share rate, yeah, we're just proving it, right? By looking at the data and watching the contract and how it operates. It just ratchets upwards and to the right. We are seeing a significant difference, though, between the amount of HEX being earned in order to sustain the T-shares versus also people not restaking as much. And look at all our models, and we go out into the future. We can see way out here in 2040 land, 2036 land. I don't have a lot of data yet to really do great estimates beyond this point. But you see the T-share rate kind of flattening out. Right. Well, why is that? Why do we have all these flat spots? Well, this is an effect that's been created by the OA. Right. So the OA staking kind of level set things. And now because there's so many more T-shares and the payout per T-share is so low, when you do the calculation, there are fewer and fewer stakes that make, that make new T-share rates. And so really, the answer to why there's so many flat spots is we just haven't had the new stakes yet created that'll make the changes in the future. They'll come later, right? They won't stay flat, but you can just see that the system looks quite regulated, I guess would be a way to say it, even though there isn't quote unquote a regulator. The action of the stakers is what regulates it and kind of creates this situation, right? Now, interestingly enough, if we go to the drawdown, and I preset this to go back just 1 week, this is a pretty important metric to me. This is the basis of anyone's forecast in the future, right? One of the things you have to try to figure out if you're trying to do a forecast, and not everybody is, right? But if you are, and that's why you have me doing this, right? What we're doing is we're looking at the number of T-shares that were started versus ended. And we had 120 on the Ethereum side, 128,000 started, but only 43,000 ended. So Oh yeah, no, other way around. Sorry, missed one decimal. We had 12,824 started and 43,869 ended, and that means that we lost a bunch of T-shares, and so that means the T-shares that, in comparison, we're losing about 70% of them on the Ethereum side. On the Pulse chain side, about 40% in the last week. Now, it's only a week's data, so we can go back one more week and see if it changes more significantly. But it kind of gives you a flavor for, what stakers are doing. So I went back one more week, and you see Ethereum minus 68%, and one more week on the Pulse chain side, minus 46%. So we're just not seeing people come in and do the restaking, right? And so, yeah, super bullish for anybody that does have T-shares, because by the fact that HEX is a bit more rare on the market and people are fading, getting into staking, what's end up happening is you end up in a situation where we're just going to see T-shares being more and more rare and becoming more expensive at the same time. Looking at our average stake links created, we did see a nice little uptick. 3.6 years on average for HEX, and 3 years on average for the Pulse chain side. That's pretty good. Open stakes, and remember, this is just a number, but I mean, it gives you an idea of what the average staking length is of open HEX stakes. But the OA is included in here as well. So we're up at nine years. We had that decline for a period on both chains, but then the OA came in and made a significant a series of stakes, and reset the system, right? So we're back up to the 9 years. Let's see if my charts are looking okay for let's look at payouts per T-share per count. Let's see how this looks. Give it a chance to load. Okay. Yeah, and so we don't know for certain what'll happen, but you can see kind of the staircase forecast coming down in the number of T-shares year over year. You see these big step downs. That's when each of the OA stakes end. Now, the OA could decide to go ahead and restake. Don't know, right? Maybe it's an automated program. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But you can what we can do is look at what actually exists out there, and you can see it stepping down until you get all the way out here into 2040. Down at the bottom, not a great way to look at the payouts. The payout would actually be rising during this period of time if nothing changes significantly with adoption or emergency end stakes. We'd be going from somewhere around the 1.5 payout per T-share to about double, 3.2, 3.2 by the time we end, 2.6 right before that final big huge Quattro Cinco. So that's 15 years out into the future. Tim, good to see you. Lucky Luke 369, good to see you as well, my friend. What else would you like to see? Are you not entertained? Let's go take a look at the Quattro Cinco stakes and see what we've been having Quattro Cincos. So looking at our Quattro Cincos, you can see that February, which of those OA stakes really dwarfed the last year in terms of Quattro Cincos. So for the fun of it, I will exclude February and just take a look at what we're looking at. And so we had observed last year, as we were talking a lot about Quattro Cinco. Of course, a lot of that was based on the idea that we were going to be seeing, continue to see the rewards that we were seeing on HEX. But you can see we had kind of a rise upwards. Not a great color, huh? Let's do a different color. You can see we had kind of a rise upwards here, right, in the number of Quattro Cincos being made. And then we came to a point around December where people were just like, combined with the top of the local top of the market, and also things begin to fall off, you see it drop down. So I'm guessing that maybe we'll level out down here. I mean, we still have a lot of time left in April of 2025, so perhaps we can get up to 1,000 T-shares being staked. These are non-OA users, so maybe we can get up to this level, but it seems like we're on the decline, unfortunately. And again, who's it unfortunate for? Is it unfortunate for us? I don't know. If you have a staking lot already in place, now very unfortunate, because in terms of HEX and gaining HEX, you're going to have the opportunity to collect a lot more HEX by having been staked in. And I will preface this to say also, I guess it's not a preface since I'm saying it after the fact, but anyways, I would say this, if you're thinking about staking, is because you already believe in the idea that staking HEX long term is a great idea, because you're going to accumulate more units, and you believe that there's an opportunity for HEX. This is not a comparison to all the other different strategies that might be out there, right? This is very specific into the HEX staking and why that makes sense. And so over this period of time, where perhaps you can have a ladder that might earn 3 to 4% long term over 15 years, while being exposed to potential price appreciation. That's the idea. But it's crypto, right? And we just don't know what people are going to do. And so it's whether you believe or you don't. Right? It's a very hard test. Very hard test. I mean, it's very similar to making the decision to come in HEX in the first place, right? And I have a theory, at least when I do my thinking about stuff, I do consider multiple scenarios, right? So it don't necessarily know which things might happen, but I try to investigate all the things that could happen, and I don't get them all. But one of the things that could happen is there's emergency end stakes. The other thing that can happen, another thing that could happen, would be massive price appreciation, new adoption waves. So these are all the types of things we might think about as we go into the future. I mean, I feel pretty bullish. Anybody who's familiar with things like Wise or some of the other clone copies in the past, I mean, they're all kind of like floating around doing their own thing long term. I'm not a Wise user, but I use that one because there are people that had gotten into Wise early and big, and sure, it makes no sense for anybody new to get involved, but the Wise contract just pays out rewards, and because they have sunk burned liquidity, it's just there forever. So how does that relate to HEX? I think there's a future for HEX, right? So of course that's my underlying belief, right? That there's going to be a future. I do find it interesting that we've now seen a bit of a reversal of more staking on the Pulse chain side than the ETH side, and that's while the gas prices are cheap. Hex Monkey, good to see you. And I say cheap on the Ethereum side; they've been pretty cheap. And yes, it is a T-share party. All right, what else? You guys have any requests? Throw them in the chat. I'm gonna go take a quick look. My Pulse chain charts. There was a problem that came up on HEX stats today. So here we go. Okay, this looks a little bit better. All right, so I had just refreshed this to kind of take a look and see what's going on with the T-shares. So you can see the T-share counts. It looked kind of flat here with these big increases, but let's go out a week back and just see what this looks like. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Let me go here. Let's go. I'm going to do beginning of April 4/1/2025. Let's see. All right. So you can see the T-share rate, or excuse me, the T-share counts just coming down and to the right. A little bit of resurgence here at the bottom, a little bit of a bump up. I mentioned that we saw some more staking take place. So you can see, Quattro Cinco. So you can kind of see these numbers just going down to the right. And this is what we would expect, right? Just expensive to get more T-shares. If we go out a little bit further, into the past here. Let's go to the 15th of March. Okay, you can see the OA action here that took place back on the 17th of March. Boom, brought it up. We'll go 1 week ahead of that, and we can continue to see ever since then, right? Just the T-shares slowly coming down. And again, that is that's the situation is that you can't create as many T-shares as you could before, because you're just not getting the rewards. Now the old guys, they can, right? The old folks. The OGs, the people who had stakes in from 2020, they have the best opportunity to get more T-shares without getting more HEX off the market. They have the best opportunity because they have the most rewards that have been stockpiled in over time. But whereas, as I'm showing you on the charts, it's not happening, right? And so for anybody who stays in, they'll be doing pretty good. Let's look at the payout chart. Let's see how this came out. Kind of bring this back. All right, bring it back up the current dates a little bit. All right, so what is this? This is the amount of HEX that gets paid out from the contract on a daily basis, and so it does combine a lot of different things, right? So you can see these larger stakes came out and affected the payout that day. It might have been some penalties that occurred. There might have been some minting, but otherwise it's fairly steady going into the future. But this is the total number of HEX. So this has been pretty steady, right? But what happened is the T-shares went up, so the payout per T-share has gone down. We take a look at the penalties. Penalties are kind of like normal, right? I mean, this is a pretty busy chart. You can see the trend line though in the middle here, this little white line going up and upwards and to the right. So yeah, we're seeing a slight trend upwards, but the average is somewhere around 4 million a day. So we're not seeing staker capitulation. So boy, I'd like to know what's going on in your mind with all this. We're just not seeing people emergency and stake. Look at penalties on average all time. Yeah, it's up a little bit, but it's not what people sometimes portray. Everybody's emergency. They're not. The stakers are strong. They're strong. 7-day, been a little higher than that overall average, somewhere around 8-9 million on the month, 5 million on the month. So a little bit more in emergency end staking taking place here. In the last 7 days as opposed to 28 days. In the last year, you can kind of see a little bit different definition, more definition about what the averages are. So yeah, people are staying pretty strong. I mean, we always have emergency end stakes. I mean, I guess it's to be expected. Payout per T-share on the scale, hard to see this, right? Because it's just so low now, but way down here at 1.5-ish right now. As probably the base. I did have a base rate. I wonder if I have that up or not. But we'll see when we get to the end of this. Chicken wing chart. What's chicken wing? Woo! Chicken wings. Price of chicken wings have come down. Both. They come down in U.S. and Mexico. Right, U.S. more expensive, of course, but this is cost of chicken wings in Pulse. Kind of a fun little way to look at it. And so right now, if I'm in the U.S., about 400,000 Pulse per order of chicken wings, and Mexico perhaps 300,000. So about 25% cheaper. Let go Mexico. All those Mexican hexicans out there. Looking at the stakers and what we're seeing with stakers, somebody pointed this out in one of the streams the other day, which is a good one. This is not on log. This is linear, but that's because I want to be able to see, the numbers coming down. So the point about that is this is 126,000 stakers on Pulse Chain as of February 13th, and now we're down to 125-ish, somewhere around that number. So about 1,000 over that period of time, less. But in the grand scheme of things, 1,000 over 100 The 26,000 is very small, but you can see that happening on both sides. Holder charts continue to slightly go up into the right, just representing the number of addresses that are holding HEX. So continuing to go up and to the right. This is something you usually see during any accumulation period. You look at the Bitcoin and Ethereum, you'll see that they're talking about a lot of this. Whales and others will accumulate. Now, this is address count, though, so it doesn't account for the amount of HEX that's being put in there. But all right, let's see. Average length. These numbers should look pretty similar to the other chart on the other visual, somewhere around 9 years on average. Okay, APY comparisons. I haven't looked at this. I'll have to go back and make sure that this is calculating with the new numbers, because I don't believe it is. But as our APY is a little bit lower than this, so I'll have to go change that and add in a different reason or different forecast. Now, why are these numbers so messed up? Well, previously when we were looking at the payouts, right? Previously we were looking at the the payouts per T-share. They were pretty steady, right? And so what I had been doing, and they'd been going up and to the right for a few years, I had been using a 6-month average and just projecting that rolling forward into the future to come up with some idea of what it is. But because the number is so significantly lower, you can't use a 6-month average. And so for my regular charts, I went back to just what I had available. And now that some time's passed and I'm not seeing big changes from the OA, I'll have to change that and get that information put together. Let's see, base payout per T-share. All right, base payout going into the future. Now this is down quite a bit as well, but well, I don't have the forecast here, so this is the actuals, but so it's not down. But as I had been forecasting into the future, I was expecting to see a rise of somewhere around 66 million HEX per day to 90 million HEX per day. I think that may have fallen off a little bit, but I think that's still going to be what's going to happen, because what does this all mean? Well, when new HEX is minted, so HEX is earned through rewards, and then somebody ends a stake, or it could even be an emergency end stake. New HEX is minted, and because new HEX is minted, it now gets inflated, and so this count should go up always based on the amount of HEX being minted. When I said went down, what I was thinking about is what the future amount of HEX might be, that we could look at all these stakes, and as they end, how much HEX will come out. But anyways, up and to the right in terms of what the base payout. And so the base payout per T-share is really changed quite a bit, right? Because we're down here at the 1.5. If I go change the state, okay, this goes to the 10th because we're using HEX daily stats data, so it's a few days behind. Let's look at 4/1/2025 and see what that is. A little tiny thing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to change this this date so we can actually see this a little bit better definition. But we can focus on the information up here. Let's go back to right before the OA made a change, or right after the OA made a change. Okay. So we can see that on the Ethereum side, the min payout's been about 153, average 150. All these numbers are pretty close to being the same right now. And again, it's kind of a regulating effect of the OA staking. So it'll be very consistent payout, probably for a very long time, slowly rising up and to the right as T-shares drop out of the system. See the example. This has changed quite a bit as well. what we were thinking we might see for APY. And so again, these numbers, I'll recheck them, but we're significantly lower. We're still longer pays better, and probably a better methodology. Um, using hex trustless rewards, but much slower growth. And then finally, what are we looking at for cumulative penalties? So penalties just continue to take place. We do see some larger penalties here in January, the 25 in February, just kind of adding to the total for the Ethereum side, but not so much on the Pulse chain side. And so again, just seeing that stakers are fairly diamond handed, right? All right, I see 720 out here. Good to see you, Archie. We love our chicken wings. We do. We do. There's a good question from Archie before we wrap up here. Crispy, do you think emergency end stakes will increase as price appreciates? Yes, 100%. Well, do I think 100% of them will emergency end stake? No. I think that there will be more, right? So anecdotally, right, you have people out there who put in a ladder with the idea that they were going to earn rewards. And now the rewards are a lot less. Okay, we get that. You also have people who earned a ton of rewards, right? And once they get past that 50% range, sure, they still lose all their, all the hex that they earned in the first half, but they have the principal. Plus, mostly, I mean, you have to go double check this. Never emergency end stake without doing a lot of research and make sure you know what you're going to get. But yeah, so there are going to be people that have 100,000, 200,000 hex in principal. All right, and I'm going to guess most people are going to say will agree with me on this. He had 200,000 hex in there in principal, and hex gets to 50 cents. $100,000 is a lot of money in the world for a lot of people. And so, in 100,000 hex being staked, 200,000 is not a lot. And in terms of what we've seen that people did when the units were super cheap, which hint, units are super cheap again. And if you believe in the system, you've probably a good opportunity. So anyways, what I would guess is going to happen is that people are going to evaluate it. Sure. This is where having a staking ladder is pretty useful, right? Because if you have a staking ladder and you have hex coming out on the year, even on the month or the quarter, you can decide what you're going to do each time. You don't have to go emergency end stake. But for those who might just have very long ladder rungs, like a lot of us didn't think that hex would have the run it had in the first, the first cycle. We were thinking second cycle. At least I was thinking that was more likely we'd see bigger things, but everything's changed now, right? So it doesn't even matter at this point. But you have a lot of people that didn't even do short stakes in terms of like 3-4 years. They went 5 years, 6 years out. And so those stakes will be coming up due. I can tell you from observing the emergency end stakes, we just haven't seen the capitulation. It's not there. But yeah, we could see it. We could see it. Shell Fox will be interesting to see if EES's increases as price moves up, or if only hardcore core holders remain. Yeah, it's probably a mix, right? Probably a mix. I mean, I'm sure. Well, I know for certain we have a lot of hardcore people still here. That's for sure. But I also don't know how many of those addresses that are out there are actually OA seeded addresses or other entities that seeded. I mean, there's all sorts of things that could be happening. But I think that in general, right? Yeah, price goes up, you should see more emergency end staking. Free speech. I don't know, man. Not much. I don't think you miss much. There's a lot of stuff going on in the ecosystem. A lot of things. People be guarded. Be careful. There's a lot of different side protocols up and running, a lot of energy being taken in different directions. So keep an eye out for that. And just because, just because you believe in hex doesn't mean that somebody who calls something, hex, has the same level of trust. So make sure you risk adjust if you are looking at anything other than the old hex that's out there. Particularly with things that are immutable. I mean, there's things you can't change, and then there's things that people can do other stuff, print, blacklist, whitelist, all sorts of stuff. Shellfox. New stakers probably also be the new ES. Yeah. Holding longer is a winning play regardless. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully the new folks who come in will not be doing the emergency end staking, right? Because they're the ones that get hurt the most, right? The shorter, the less progress you make on your stakes, the worse it is for emergency end stakes. I won't go into detail in this stream. Maybe we'll do a different one on penalties. But a good question came up on Maddie's stream this week about penalties and what they look like. Penalties are still the same in terms of how they're calculated, but it's not as terrible of a hit, I guess would be one way to look at it. Because we're not earning as much rewards, it's harder to nuke an entire position for new stakes. I guess that would be the way to talk about it. So maybe you're right about that we might have more new people do emergency end stakes. Now, for the old people that already have stakes that have earned a lot, you don't want it. You want to be really careful because those can nuke your principal pretty hard. Just take a look real quick and see what we got for action. This is my tracked volume that I look at. Very complicated, very, very detailed on the screen, very small. You probably can't see it. But when I come here, what I'm looking at is bottom line, what the volume's been in the last 24 hours for my tracked pairs, and I see we're down around 20 million. I expect norm to be about 30. We've been ranging between 12 and 30. Depending on what's going on in the chain. So it's super quiet right now. And you can see this in the trading activity, very few transactions on things that aren't being pushed right now. When we look at in terms of APY, what the greatest movers are, you see, remember up here at the top. Let's look at volume though. Let's look and see what's getting the most volume in the chain. So give us a second to think about this. And I found it pretty interesting that I'm seeing a lot of eBTC action. It's wrap BTC from Ethereum. That's been pretty interesting to see that. Like, what is behind that, right? And liquidity's up. So I have to go look at the actual numbers to see. But somebody's spinning Bitcoin pretty hard on Pulse Chain. I mean, 2.5 million versus about 400,000 liquidity. Beast, and that gives us a speed of like 5 times as much of the liquidity was moved in the last 24 hours. You got Beast, and maybe this is the answer right there with eBTC, 2 million over 848,000. So what's going on with that? Well, it looks to me, so you guys aren't familiar with OG Web Shop, not telling to go get involved. I'm just saying that, hey, these are numbers that are affecting us. They're pumping through some volume pretty heavy, and that volume is affecting eBTC, it looks like. All right, let's see. Pulse eDai is the next one down, 1.5 million, right? And then now you start seeing kind of like more normal types of numbers, 1.5 million versus 4.6 million in liquidity for Pulse versus eDai. And let's go to V1. Well, I guess we don't have to do that. But hey, I guess we can kind of see what's really been moving and what's what's been taken off on the system. If we go look at hex pairs, we can do the same thing and see what's moving the fastest, what's got the fastest speed in the last 24 hours. So This is EDESI, but that's a V3 position. So let me take V3 off because those could be people exiting from one thing to another using that. So if we take a look at what's moved the fastest in the last 24 hours, dark hex pair at 0.34, EDI hex at 0.33. 33%, I guess, of the liquidity move today. HEX Pulse, 0.30. So you can kind of see these numbers here. I use this information to kind of identify which pairs I'm interested in, because I can look at APYs and whatnot. In terms of volume, what's getting the most volume is HEX Pulse. HEX Pulse at 0.20. And then on V1, and nearly the same 0.19 on V2. So 750,000, 800,000 on 4 million in liquidity with Pulse. Then followed by EHEX Pulse, EHEX Hex. EHEX Hex is an interesting one. Let's look at that. Look at that chart real quick. I mean, it runs a pretty good APR anyways with these. It's pretty cool. So this is our EHEX Hex chart, and EHEX, of course, this is USD, but let's put it in hex terms and just see what that looks like. Okay. All right. So the EHEX Hex just come down to test this level again, the 0.25 level. And so there are people, every one of these segments of time for those people who are trading, and it's not something I'm recommending. I just see what people are doing. They likely took a swap when it was back up here, took another swap at the top to swing it. This is a 3-day chart, by the way. And so then they held it till it got back down, did another swap up, down. And so this is people rotating and doing their ratio trading on the hex. So, all right. Well, that's all I got for today. Let's see if we got new stuff. Nothing new in the chat too here. All right, everyone. Hey, thanks for joining me. We'll keep doing these. Kept this one a little bit short, and we'll see you next time. So stay crispy out there. And I didn't say it, I don't think, but a big hey now to everybody.